All right, board members, if you have anything to pull from consent, now would be the time to do that. If not, I'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda. Motion by Mrs. Whitfield, seconded by Dr. Robinson. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion is carried 7-0. The consent agenda is approved as published. I'll take us to new business. Mr. Superintendent, AD1. I'm sorry, yes, you just remind me. We have one speaker on AD1. We'll take him before we take up that item. John Papa, would you please come up to the podium? Watch the clock, Mr. Papa. You'll have 3 minutes to address the board.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Dr. John Papa. My wife and I are local residents in Palm Beach County, and we're owners of Action Physical Therapy. We are a true mom and pop organization with several locations. We have been working with the Palm Beach School Board for 25 years. Throughout these years, we've staffed half the high schools. This partnership has worked seamlessly and without incident for 25 years. About 2 weeks ago, I got a call from Valerie Mayeres. She informed me that our services are no longer needed at the school board, helping with the athletics. She gave the contract to 2 providers. She informed me that this decision was made by her and Jay Vargas. This is highly unusual for the Palm Beach County School Board. I believe that the normal process of checks and balances has not been followed with this new contract. I am extremely concerned not only for my employees, some teachers and trainers and assistant principals that are athletic trainers, but especially for the student athletes that no doubt will be tremendously affected with this decision. Our company is one of the preferred providers for the school board insurance. It does seem that this decision to switch providers was done impulsively and without haste. There was no comparison on how much change the impact the student athletes financially. I can tell you that the 2 hospital-based providers, they bill at 3 to 4 times higher than we do, and this will be devastating for the families, especially for low-income areas and other families that were affected by the pandemic. I can firsthand tell you that many of our students have to pay with pennies because they can't afford the medical care. I do not take my contract with the school lightly. With dealing with children, we have to go above and beyond, and we have done that for 25 years. The trainers that we sent to the school were handpicked by me, vetted, and this new provider will provide 30 new trainers, and they're working with our kids. The current system for trainers has worked for 25 years with not so much as a problem, and why are you trying to fix it now? We have so much going on in the school board. There's 1,000 people behind me with other issues. If the reason is financial, in the past week I have offered to match their contracts and even to be lower than that, and my offer has been ignored. I would like the opportunity to compete with this contract, and I think I've earned the right to have a transparent and negotiation, which has been done for the past 25 years. I have been inundated with calls from principals, athletic directors, parents, and teachers. Parents have even started to save our trainer online. They're starting an online process. I implore you to take this off the agenda and to actually do research on how it will impact not only our schools, our student athletes, both financially, emotionally, and the fairness to choose a provider. I think our kids have been through enough. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Papa. Mr. Superintendent, AD1.
Yes, sir. I recommend the board approve the proposed district FY22 reorganization to be effective July 1, 2021 as submitted.
Motion by Mrs. Whitfield, seconded by Vice Chairwoman Brill. Discussion, Mrs. Andrews.
And thank you. Tonight we have over 100 speakers. And as I look at this reorg that we're asking the board to consider tonight, I just want to tell you, having been in human resources for pretty close to 20 years with the school district, I have so many concerns. Just many times in the past year, we've looked to Dr. Robinson to help us with COVID-19 decisions. And to you, Mr. Barbieri, when it came to reviewing large contracts. And I just know that my experience working in human resources and hiring people in the school district of Palm Beach County, I would like for you to lean on me to kind of listen tonight. As I say, we need to be very careful with this new reorg. that's being presented here. We must ensure the process is consistent in our process of hiring. We must ensure fairness and equity. We're talking about equity now, focus on equity. And we're looking at these positions that we're talking about, and many of them haven't even been interviewed. There's not a competitive process in place. Just at the last school board meeting, we talked about policy 3.45 being used to promote people. I remembered when that policy was implemented, and I remembered we talked at that time about emergency situations. We've got to have time to review that policy. People out in the world today, they're wondering, why are we actually making major decisions about top positions within our school district without really looking at how it's going to impact children in the end. We simply need more time to review the new job description, the org charts, and our attention has been elsewhere over the last few weeks. And I know that you all have seen all the emails and you've been talking to all the parents, trying to help them through this COVID-19 and the mask situation. We need more time. And I'm just telling you that as I look at this, and you just heard the Hispanic Education Coalition speaking to you about the Assistant Superintendent of Global Affairs being downgraded to a program planner when that person actually interfaced with many dignitaries across the world. And no one has discussed it with me as it relates to how we're going to actually do the kinds of things that need to be done. I just know I need more time to review this org chart and the job description, and I think we've been busy, and it would be nice if we could come back at another date when we don't have 104 people waiting to speak here and really discuss where we're going with the school district as it relates to the new reorg for the school district of Palm Beach County. Thank you.
Other comments, board members? There were no other comments. We'll vote on the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 6-1 with Mrs. Andrews in opposition. Next item, Mr. Superintendent, is COM1.
COM1, I recommend the board proclaim May 2021 as Haitian Heritage Month.
Motion by Dr. Robinson, seconded by Vice Chairwoman Brill. I believe, Mrs. Andrews, you wanted to read that proclamation?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Proclamation, Haitian Heritage Month, May 2021. Whereas the growth and prosperity of Palm Beach County, Florida, is due in part to ethnic diversity that includes a substantial and rapidly increasing Haitian population. And whereas we recognize the valuable contributions of the Haitian people in the fight for the independence of the United States of America, especially in the Battle of Savannah, and pay due tribute to their legacy. And whereas the Haitian population in South Florida joins together during the month of May to celebrate their historical and cultural identity. And whereas the month includes Haitian Flag Day on May 18th to celebrate the creation of the flag of Haiti and revolution in Haiti that led to the country's independence from France and set the precedent for slave uprisings in the United States. The day is the anniversary of the date of the flag's adoption in 1803. And whereas it is appropriate to promote awareness and understanding of cultural diversity in our society in order to strengthen the self-esteem of our multicultural student population and improve their academic achievement. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the superintendent and the school board of Palm Beach County do hereby proclaim May 2021 as Haitian Heritage Month and highlight the unique diversity of the Haitian culture and their contributions to Palm Beach County, the state of Florida, and the United States. Done this 19th day of May, 2021, in West Palm Beach, Florida. Frank A. Barberi Jr., Esquire, Board Chair, Dr. Donald E. Fenor, II, Superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Andrews. Any discussion, board members? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Mr. Superintendent, COM2.
COM2, I recommend the board proclaim May 2021 as International Internal Audit Awareness Month.
Motion by Mrs. Andrews, second by Dr. Robinson. I believe Mrs. Whitfield, you wanted to read that proclamation?
Sure, thank you. International Internal Audit Awareness Month, May 2021. Whereas internal auditing is a vital part of strengthening organizations and protecting shareholders of both public and private sectors, and whereas internal auditing helps identify and manage the school district of Palm Beach County's risks and ensures policies, procedures, and controls are in place and working appropriately, and whereas internal auditing is an increasingly sophisticated and complex activity requiring specialized knowledge, training, and education, and whereas internal auditing is an established profession with globally recognized code of ethics and international standards for the professional practice of internal auditing, and whereas historically the global internal audit profession promotes awareness about its value during the month of May each year, and whereas the contribution of internal auditors to the success of organizations and the global economy at large deserves our recognitions and commendations. Now it therefore be resolved that the Superintendent of the School Board of Palm Beach County do hereby proclaim May 2021 as International Internal Audit Awareness Month, and be it further resolved that we hereby extend greetings and best wishes to all observing International Internal Audit Awareness Month and invite the citizens of Palm Beach County to join us in recognizing professional internal auditors for their contributions done this 19th day of May 2021 in West Palm Beach, Florida. Thank you.
Any discussion, board members? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. COM3, Mr. Superintendent.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend the board proclaim May 2021 as Mental Health Awareness and Trauma-Informed Care Month.
Motion by Ms. Ayala, seconded by Mrs. Andrews. I believe, Ms. Ayala, you wanted, Mrs. Whitfield, you're reading that one?
Yeah, this one is a fun one. All right. Mental Health Awareness and Trauma-Informed Care Month, May 2021. Whereas mental health is essential to everyone's overall health and well-being, and whereas everyone experiences times of stress and struggles in their lives, and whereas 1 in 4 adults and 1 in 5 youth ages 13 to 18 experience serious mental illness, and whereas 60% of adults and 50% of youth do not receive the treatments necessary for their mental health needs due to limited or no knowledge of the need, barriers to care, or fear, shame, and whereas research recognizes that adverse childhood experiences, ACEs, are traumatic events that can have profound effect on a child's developing brain, body, and can result in poor physical and mental health during childhood and adulthood. ACEs include but are not limited to physical and emotional sexual abuse, physical and emotional neglect, household dysfunction, untreated mental illness, incarceration of a household member, domestic violence, and separation or divorce involving household members, and whereas community understanding and available supports and services can greatly affect a person's ability to handle their stress and struggle and move forward, and whereas promoting mental health and wellness leads to higher overall productivity, better educational outcomes, lower crime rates, stronger economies, lower healthcare costs, improved family life, improved quality of life, and an increased lifespan, and whereas studies show that the effects of ACEs are felt by people regardless of race, ethnicity, religion, gender, sexual orientation, or socioeconomic status, and whereas the school board of the school district of Palm Beach County recognizes the effect of awareness and education, access to services, and acceptance of importance of mental health and well-being to person's overall success, supports the implementation of trauma-informed approaches throughout the system of care. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the Superintendent of the School Board of Palm Beach County do hereby proclaim May 2021 as Mental Health Awareness and Trauma-Informed Care Month, done this 19th day of May 2021 in West Palm Beach, Florida. Thank you.
Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. COM4.
CM4, Mr. Chairman, I recommend the board proclaim May 10/14 as Public Servant Mental Health Week.
Motion
Can I
by,
read that again appropriately? I recommend the board proclaim May 10th through the 14th as Public Service Mental Health Week.
motion by Dr. Robinson, second by Ms. Ayala. Ms. Ayala, you wanted to read that?
Whereas mental health is essential to everyone's overall health and well-being, and whereas public servants and first responders are facing challenges in work and life that can affect their mental health, especially during a pandemic, and whereas prevention is an effective way to reduce the burden of mental health conditions, and whereas there are practical tools and coping skills that all people can use to improve their mental health and increase resiliency, And whereas mental health conditions are real and prevalent in our nation. And whereas, with effective support and treatment, those individuals who seek mental health support can lead resilient, full, and balanced lives, thus becoming better public servants and better able to work at improving their communities. And whereas each business, school, government agency, healthcare provider, organization, and citizen is encouraged to share the burden of mental health problems, take responsibility to promote mental wellness, and support prevention and treatment efforts. Now therefore be it resolved that the Superintendent and School Board of Palm Beach County do hereby proclaim May 10th through the 14th, 2021 as Public Servant Mental Health Week, done this 19th day of May 2021 in West Palm Beach, Florida.
Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. COM 5, Mr. Superintendent.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend the board proclaim June 4th, 2021 as National Gun Violence Awareness Day.
Motion by Dr. Robinson, seconded by Ms. Ayala. I believe Mrs. Whitfield, you wanted to read that one?
Yes, I'm sorry for everyone who's waiting. This is a lot of proclamations today. National Gun Violence Awareness Day, June 4th, 2021. Whereas every day more than 100 Americans are killed by gun violence, in addition to more than 230 who are shot and wounded. On an average, there are more than 13,000 gun homicides each year, and Americans are 25 times more likely to die by gun homicide than people in other high-income countries. And whereas Florida has 2,752 gun deaths every year with a rate of 12.5 deaths per 100,000 people, Florida has the 27th highest rate of gun deaths in the United States. And whereas gun homicides and assaults are concentrated in cities, with more than half of all firearm-related gun deaths in the nation occurring in 127 cities. Cities across the nation are working to end the senseless violence with evidence-based solutions, protecting public safety in the communities they serve, its mayor's highest responsibility. And whereas support from the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens goes hand in hand with keeping guns away from people with dangerous histories. And whereas mayors, law enforcement officers know their communities best and are most familiar with local criminal activity, how to address it, and are best positioned to understand how to keep their citizens safe. And whereas gun violence is more important than ever as COVID-19 pandemic continues to exacerbate gun violence after more than a year of increased gun sales, increased calls to suicide and domestic violence hotlines, and an increase in city gun violence. And whereas in January 2013, Hadiah Pendleton was tragically shot and killed at age 15. To recognize what would have been Hadiah's 24th birthday, born June 2nd, 1997, people across the United States will recognize National Gun Violence Awareness Day and wear orange in tribute to 1, Hadiah Pendleton and other victims of gun violence, and 2, the loved ones of those victims. And whereas the idea was inspired by a group of Hadiah's friends who were asked their classmates to commemorate her life by wearing orange. They chose this color because hunters wear orange to announce themselves to other hunters when out in the woods, and orange is a color that symbolizes the value of human life. And whereas anyone can join this campaign by pledging to wear orange on June 4th, the first Friday in June in 2021, to help raise awareness about gun violence. And whereas by wearing orange on June 4th, 2021, Americans will raise awareness about gun violence and honor the lives of gun violence victims and survivors. We renew our commitment to reduce gun violence and pledge to do all we can to keep firearms out of the wrong hands and encourage responsible gun ownership to help keep our children safe. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the Superintendent and the School Board of Palm Beach County do hereby proclaim June 4th, 2021 as National Gun Violence Awareness Day and encourage all citizens to support their local communities' efforts to prevent tragic effects of gun violence, to honor and value human lives, done this 19th day of May, 2021 in West Palm Beach, Florida. Thank you.
Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. COM 6.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend the board proclaim May 2021 as Jewish American Heritage Month.
Motion by Dr. Robinson, seconded by Mrs. Andrews. Ms. Brill.
Thank you. Whereas Jewish American Heritage Month had its origins in 1980 when Congress requested the President to issue a proclamation designating a week in April or May as Jewish Heritage Week, and whereas President Jimmy Carter issued the first proclamation in April 1980, which spoke about the many contributions made by the Jewish people to the culture and history of the United States. And whereas on April 20th, 2006, President George W. Bush proclaimed that May would be Jewish American Heritage Month, thanks to the efforts by the Jewish Museum of Florida and South Florida Jewish community leaders that resulted in resolutions urging the president to proclaim a month that would recognize the more than 370-year history of Jewish contributions to American culture. And whereas the Jewish American story is a critical part of the American narrative, it is one of refuge from persecution, commitment to service, faith, democracy, and peace, and of tireless work to achieve success. As leaders in every facet of American life, from athletics, entertainment, and the arts, to academia, business, government, and our armed forces, Jewish Americans have shaped our nation and helped steer the course of our history. We are a stronger and more hopeful country because so many Jews from all around the world have made America their home. And whereas we celebrate the rich heritage of the Jewish American community, including those who live and work in Palm Beach County, we recognize that American Jews have worked to strengthen the promise of religious freedom and civil rights by coming together across all faiths to reject ignorance and intolerance, teach empathy and compassion, and root out hate wherever it exists. And whereas we are reminded that the vibrant culture of the Jewish people has not always been embraced, and that Jewish communities continue to confront hostility and bigotry, including in America. Therefore, the School District of Palm Beach County shares an obligation to condemn and combat anti-Semitism and hatred wherever it exists. And whereas during Jewish American Heritage Month, the School District of Palm Beach County celebrates the hard-fought progress won through the struggle and sacrifice of Jewish Americans, and we rededicate ourselves to building a world where diversity is cherished and faith is protected. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Superintendent and the School Board of Palm Beach County do hereby proclaim May 2021 as Jewish American Heritage Month in the School District of Palm Beach County. We call upon all residents to observe this month with solemn remembrance and to celebrate Jewish Americans who have helped weave the fabric of American history, culture, and society. Done this 19th day of May, 2021 in West Palm Beach, Florida.
Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Ladies and gentlemen, it's come to my attention that some of you in this room do not have your masks on. You're given an option either to stay in this room with masks on over your nose and mouth, or school police will escort you over to the non-mask room. We've made arrangements for those of you that don't want to wear a mask, and we understand some of you would prefer not to wear them. You can go to the non-mask room. So I'm asking school police, if anybody in that room pulls down their mask again, give them the option to either leave the building or go to the non-mask room so that I don't have to make this announcement again. COM 7, Mr. Superintendent.
COM 7, I recommend the board proclaim May 2021 as Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month.
Motion by Dr. Robinson, seconded by Ms. Ayala.
That's me.
Ms. Brill, I believe you wanted to read that one.
Yes, thank you. Whereas the growth and prosperity of Palm Beach County, Florida, is due in part to an ethnic diversity that includes rapidly increasing Asian American and Pacific Islander, AAPI, populations. And whereas we recognize the valuable contributions of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders that enrich our history, society, and culture. And whereas Asian American and Pacific Islander heritage in the United States was initially celebrated as a weekly event beginning in 1978, then officially designated a month-long event in 1992. And whereas the month of May was chosen as Asian American and Pacific Islander American Heritage Month to commemorate the immigration of the first Japanese citizen to the United States on May 7, 1843, and also the completion of the first transcontinental railroad on May 10, 1869, which utilized the labor of Chinese immigrants. And whereas during this month, we honor and recognize the contributions of residents from Asia, India, and the Pacific Islands, encompassing all of the Asian continent and the Pacific Islands of Melanesia, Micronesia, and Polynesia. And whereas members of our Asian American and Pacific Islander communities have been impacted by incidences of hate and discrimination during the COVID-19 pandemic, and these experiences have disproportionately impacted our AAPI youth. And whereas it is important to promote awareness and understanding of cultural diversity in our society in order to strengthen the self-esteem of our multicultural student population and improve their academic achievement. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Superintendent and School Board of Palm Beach County do hereby proclaim May 2021 as Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month and highlight the unique diversity of the cultures of Asia and the Pacific Islands and their contributions to Palm Beach County, the state of Florida, and the United States. Done this 19th day of May 2021 in West Palm Beach, Florida.
Discussion, board members. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. LD1, Mr. Superintendent.
Yes, sir. LD1, I recommend the board authorize the settlement of Brian Lee v. Tammy Pierre et al., case number 50-2019-CA009021, Florida 15th Circuit Court. Brian Lee v. Tammy Pierre et al., case number 9:19-CV-81631-RLR, SD, Florida, and Brian Lee versus School Board of Palm Beach County et al., case number 21-11460-H, 11th Circuit, in accordance with the terms set forth in the settlement agreement, and authorize the board chair, superintendent, and general counsel to sign all necessary documents.
Motion by Ms. Ayala, seconded by Mrs. Whitfield. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. P2, job descriptions, Mr. Superintendent.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, I recommend the board approve the job descriptions as submitted.
Motion by Dr. Robinson, seconded by Mrs. Whitfield. Discussion, Mrs. Andrews?
Thank you. Many times we don't discuss things in the public. This is a new position, this Director of Strategy Management. And I would like for someone, since this is going to be a very brand-new position within our district, to come up and tell us exactly what this person is going to be doing. I have an idea based on the work that's been done with the strategic plan, but this is a whole brand-new department. So can somebody outline to me what this new department will be doing since we're creating a brand-new department in this time of crunch?
Sure, Mr. Tierney, you want to speak to it?
Yes, sir. The Office of Strategic Management is meant to formalize project management that we've been doing over the past year or so. So that's been done particularly well, but in a less structured, less formal way. So as we create and implement the strategic plan, as we monitor the ESSER funds, the COVID recovery, this will more formalize the process for project managing the large projects that we'll be facing in the next couple of years.
Only thing I would add, Mr. Burke and I were on Council of Great City Schools calls, and that was one of the big recommendations, considering all the federal money coming in, was having a team that helped us project manage all of those things. I think I discussed that with most of the board members.
Mrs. McQuinn?
Yes, one of the things that I had not picked up on, but then I remembered Mr. Tierney had told us, and I think it's worth remembering, is that that department being funded through the ESSER grant is time-bound to FY24. And I think that's important for us to remember. It automatically falls off.
Mrs. Andrews?
So since it's going to fall off, is this position interim?
No, the contracts written by HR will stipulate that, just like any grant position that we have in the district, the initiation time and the end time, so they're end dated.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed? 6 members in agreement. The motion passes with Mrs. Andrews in opposition. That'd be P3, Mr. Superintendent.
I recommend the board approve the personnel addendum as submitted.
Motion by Mrs. Whitfield, seconded by Dr. Robinson. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. So for members of the public, just to understand what the process will be at this point, we have 11 non-agenda speakers. At this time, we take the non-agenda speakers, and then we will start with agenda speakers. The non-agenda speakers, 11 of them, it's approximately half an hour. We're going to listen to them, and then we're going to move to agenda speakers, and there are 6 hours and 50 minutes of agenda speakers. So where you're at on the list is where you called in or submitted your blue cards. For those of you who submitted blue cards when you got here today, you're at the very end of the list, so we'll probably get to you sometime around 11 o'clock tonight, maybe maybe earlier, it depends on how quickly people talk. If everybody takes 3 minutes, it's going to probably take us until at least midnight to get through all of the agenda speakers. But we're going to start at this point with the non-agenda speakers, and I'm going to call you 3 at a time, so please be ready to come to the podium so we can move as quickly as we possibly can. Ellen Bredewig, Vicky Partlow, and Suzanne Biddiscombe. Please come up to the podiums. Ma'am, state your name for the record, and please watch the clock. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I'm Ellen Bradaway. I am the director for the Palm Beach Academic Games League. Good evening, school board members and Dr. Fenoy. Typically, at the school board meeting, there would be recognition for students throughout the district, honoring them for their achievements, and that would have included academic games players bringing back awards from their national tournament. But as we all know, this has not been a typical year. Last summer, we began to plan for our 48th consecutive year of academic games competition in Palm Beach County, determined to provide for students the opportunity to play academic games in spite of the limitations of the pandemic. With the help of the Return to Play Committee from the National Academic Games Leagues of America, our coaches put together a plan to do all of our local tournaments virtually. We became experts in Google Meet and Google Forms. We did teacher training virtually and then successfully completed 12 days of competitions from September through February. On each Tuesday competition date, we ran 3 simultaneous hour-long tournaments via Google Meet for the elementary, middle, and high school divisions. During each of the 3 seasons of play, social studies, language arts, and mathematics, participation was better than we had anticipated. During the year, we had a total of 143 schools and 820 students participate. The details will be in the handout for you shortly. After we finished the local competitions in February, we organized and held the 35th annual Florida State Tournament. Eligible Palm Beach County participants competed virtually against players from Martin County and FAU Lab School from FAU University. Your handout will have a chart that shows Palm Beach County players who won at the state tournament. Every year, AGLOA encourages nominations for Outstanding Senior and Outstanding Educator awards. Palm Beach County had 2 individuals who were chosen for those national honors. A senior from Atlantic High School, Viraj Shah, was named an outstanding senior, only one of only 5 national winners chosen this year. The outstanding educator is Nicole Friesman, who teaches at Watson B. Duncan Middle School. She was one of 2 national winners. Both were recognized in an online video presentation for their contribution to academic games. The Palm Beach Academic Games League was praised by the AGLOA Board of Directors for their outstanding organization and participation both locally and nationally during this challenging year. We want to once again thank you and the district administration for making it possible for so many students to take part in academic games, and we look forward to our 49th year of competition during the next school year. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Murray, can you tone down the bell? I think it scared half the people in the room, if not all of us. But Vicky Partlow and Suzanne Biddiscombe, please come up to the podiums. Go ahead, ma'am. State your name for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Vicky Partlow. I'm here to not ask, but for demand change. My daughter is a 6th grade student at Jupiter Middle School of Technology. On April 28th, my daughter was bullied all day by an 8th grader simply because she's pretty. At the end of the day, the 8th grader manipulated her way into a fight that was pre-planned against my daughter and proceeded to assault my daughter during PE class. She had little to no supervision during this class, and it's apparent in all the videos that the entire class took of this assault. Children rallied around my daughter and the other child and videoed the fight, posted it all over social media platforms. My daughter was walked to the office after having her head repeatedly hit the ground and a very hard blow to her temple right side of her face, and she was never given medical attention. After 12 hours of being home with her noticing strange behavior, we took her to our local urgent care, Helix, who did a concussion protocol, and they gave me two options. One, to drive her to the hospital myself, or to have an ambulance pick her up. My daughter suffered from a serious concussion and is now suffering from post-concussion syndrome with no end in sight. I was called by my daughter's best friend to inform me of what happened. The school never called me. I called the school at 4:25, and I was informed then that I had to come to the school and pick up my daughter's belongings because she had been suspended. The AP at Jupiter Middle brushed this under the rug like it was no big deal and treated me with such disgust. I asked if I could maybe show her the videos that had been recorded by other kids, and the answer was no. Everything I had to say to her, it was no, no, no. She messed with the wrong mom. It took me reaching out to Barbara McQuinn, our school board elected official, to get anything done. This shouldn't be. The safety and well-being of our children should be our priority, and it's obviously not. Policy was broken in so many ways. Policy 2.503 was broken and ignored. Palm Beach County District policy is to have all students remove social media posts during any event that happened at the school that would cause disruption to the school, misrepresent students, and this was not done. This is a direct violation of your rules that you guys made. But no big deal, because the kids that recorded my daughter and put it all over their social media, nothing happened to them. On April 28th, there was also no officer on campus that day. A promise that you guys made to us that they would be on campus. There's no point of having policy if no one's going to follow them. It's time to pour our resources, time, and love into our children and actually make an impact in their life. Stop with these COVID excuses. Stop with the mask crap. Let's start focusing on our kids who need us. Start pouring more funding into these schools so there's proper supervision for these kids. Pinpoint the kids that need the extra help and give it to them so we can be proactive instead of reactive.
Mrs. Barlow, I've asked the superintendent to respond.
Yes, if I can have you, staff of Keith and team, could you just go speak to this parent so we can do an evaluation of what happened?
Mr. Superintendent, would you have,
I'm not done yet.
yes, ma'am, yes, you are. We have to limit everybody to 3
No,
minutes.
I'm not done yet.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. No, she's finished because we have hundreds of speakers who want to speak tonight, so you are finished, ma'am.
So you don't
If you
wanna
wanna vi-
hear
if you
about
wanna
the
visit-
AP
If you want to
that
visit the
treated
deputy
me like
superintendent
crap in
outside.
front of
If you
everybody?
want to visit the deputy superintendent out in the courtyard, he'll take the information. Mr. Superintendent, please report back to the board what happened in that situation. Suzanne Biddiscombe and Sanjiv Anand, please come up to the podiums. Okay.
Good evening.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Suzanne Biddiscombe. I'm a resident of Palm Beach County, and I work in the field of mental health. I would like to ask the board to look more closely into the proposed Access for All mesh Wi-Fi network. I began researching the field of electromagnetics and wireless technologies years ago when I noted in my practice the negative impact electromagnetic frequencies were having on some of my adult clients. So naturally, I'm deeply concerned about the potential health effects a mesh Wi-Fi network would have on our children if safety limits are not established and implemented. Did you know that the NIH carried out a multi-million-dollar study on the effects of exposure to wireless radiation, proving it causes cancer and other DNA effects? Oncologists are finding an increase of developing glioma brain tumors and acoustic head tumors from increased radiation exposure. Dr. Martin Paul, professor at Washington State University, is the leading researcher into the effects of low-intensity microwave frequency electromagnetic fields on the human body. He has studied these effects for 40 years, noting that autoimmune diseases such as chronic fatigue, memory issues, concentration, and overall learning are just a few of the negative consequences resulting from this technology. Dr. Zora Glazer spent decades studying the impact of wireless technology on human health post-World War II and wrote 4,000 papers noting the harmful effects of wireless technologies. The The truth is, our government knew about the dangers of wireless technology long before cell phones and wireless technologies were commercialized here in the 1980s. Today, the whole population is exposed to levels of radiation which are millions and sometimes billions of times higher. Please take a moment and consider all the wireless devices in your home: Wi-Fi, mobile phones, cordless phones, Bluetooth. And as if this were not enough, wireless technology, with all the concomitant health risks, now consider adding a high-mesh Wi-Fi network to the mix, exposing our children and entire communities to an additional source of radiation 24/7, 365 days a year without their consent. The FCC is now being sued by several groups for not addressing what has been proven scientifically harmful. The FCC will not protect our health. It is evident that we must do this ourselves. I'm requesting that you as a board reconsider based upon the inherent health risks and radiation exposure due to wireless technology and resist the further implementation of a high-powered mesh Wi-Fi network until established safe limits can be established and set. There are numerous states such as Oregon, Maryland, Massachusetts, Washington that have already moved in this direction. Here, just down the road from us in Coconut Creek, Florida, they're taking steps to protect their children and their community. Our children count on us for protection. We must protect their safety. Community members here in Palm Beach County, who for the most part remain unaware.
Sanjiv Anand, and I'm sorry I can't pronounce you, I guess it's your daughter. Anand, are you here in the building? Angelique Contreras and Aubriana Johnson.
Aubriana is speaking on the agenda, not on a non-agenda item. That's my daughter, and she's in the other room.
Oh, so she's speaking on an agenda item?
Can you restart my time, please?
Yep, go ahead. Restart the time, please, Mark. Good.
Thank you. As a citizen and a constituent of the school board, I have questions that demand answers. I would like to know who specifically ordered law enforcement to close and forbid citizens of the county to peacefully assemble at the school board building. Who made the decision to close off the parking lot and deny access to the public and the taxpayers of this county? We demand the names. So, by a show of hands, who voted to have the police deny access to the public to peacefully assemble?
Ma'am,
For the record,
Stop the timer for a minute so I can respond. Let's just clear the record. There was nobody that was barred from coming into the parking lot. The barriers were put up to make sure that all people that came to the building tonight went to a certain parking lot that came into the building. We cleared the building of all staff today to make sure there was room in the parking lots for all of you to park. So the school police were directed to have you come down the other way in so that you could all park in the parking lot. There was absolutely no one that was forbidden entrance onto the property for tonight's meeting. No one.
We absolutely
So that's
were.
not true. That's not true.
we absolutely were.
So you can restart the clock, Mark.
So I would like for the record to show that not one of these school board members nor the superintendent, is my mic still on? The
Yes.
superintendent raised their hands. So I'd like to know who unilaterally made the decision and broke and violated the law to deny us that right. I have it on record, I have it on video. The police officers denied our access to this parking lot. And it is not the first time that has happened. So I'd like you all to know that this is on record. And you yourself, sir, I don't know your name, stated for the record that we were not denied access. But all of you believe that you supersede the governor. You believe that you could create your own ordinance, your own policies, and demand the people to comply with rules that are unlawful. We have every right to access that parking lot. We have every right to voice ourselves, and we have every right to peacefully assemble. And we could have done that all the way up to the front door of this building, yet we were barricaded like sheep to stay out on the sidewalk. We were told we couldn't go through the parking lot, that we had to take the side road to walk all the way around to Forest Hill to protest, and to come into this building, we had to walk all the way around, which subjected many of these parents for their cars to be towed away. Not the first time this has happened. So, for the record, all of you are being silent. For the record, one of you superseded and broke the law by denying us access to this parking lot. And we demand the names of those people because we have that every right as constituents and taxpayers of this county to know who denied us access. So I'd like the record to show.
Your name was Angelique Contreras? Thank you. Start the recordings for the four that have recorded their statements, please.
Peace and blessings, Superintendent and school board members. My name is Carl Mohammed. I'm a non-agenda speaker, and I am calling because it's equity time. And as a result of the strategic planning that the school district is doing, we inside of the ADOS community, the descendants of America's slavery, we in our community, we are trying to assist and prepare our community itself for the first time, and we're having some new training coming down the pike, and we want to thank the city of Riviera Beach for opening its doors, and we're planning a virtual forum for May the 24th at 6:30 p.m., and we're doing all of the canvassing inside of our community. We just wanted to make those of you who have been our partners for the past 30 years to know that we are preparing to launch a new activity inside of our community, and we're trying to insert some new information. It's not really new to you because we're utilizing much of the relationship that we've had as a community relation with you as a school district, and we're trying to do some new creative things. And as we move forward, we're going to need your love and your support as well. And we're asking you, if you know any of the children of the slaves of America, if you would tell them that there is on 6:30, and we're going to be at the Riviera Beach Marina, and we're going to have a wonderful time sharing information and really telling everybody what is Palm Beach County, how we get to be exemplary, and how we get opportunity to lead the state of Florida because of our activity. And I just think that, well, we think it's a joyous time, and we ask you to join us, although we'll be getting back in touch with you. But our new slogan is, and we want everybody to understand this from the ADOS community, our new slogan is, nothing about us without us. And we're hoping that everybody that's listening and make themselves available to the idea of an equity-based program. We want you to think about that. ADOS says, nothing about us without us. And one of the problems we always had is that we never get opportunity to insert our voice. So we want to thank the superintendent and the school board for finally allowing us the opportunity to have a voice. And now we think we can speak. And we want to share all of these thoughts that we have with everybody. Thank you once again, and I still pray for your success. And I know that everybody's lightening up with the mask and all of that, but we know that something is still out here. And I hope that we would all continue to protect ourselves and try to stay around so that we can continue to help our children with the educational needs that they have and move Palm Beach County continuously in the first round out of the 67 counties. Let's go, Palm Beach. And thank you again, everyone, and everyone, please be safe. That's Saturday, May 24th at 6:30 p.m., the city of Riviera Beach Marina.
Ezekiel Edmonds III of Black Educators Caucus. I just want to, show our appreciation by sharing a little message with you in reference to our community and how we see our role in our kids' lives, and especially in this society that we live in. Matter of fact, when we talk about society, where is it? And our people have to understand where is it. Like, you know, is it out there? Is it in the school? No, it's not out there. It's not in the school. It's in us. And we have to recognize that it's in us. A society can only be within the minds and bodies of its members. It does not exist as an entity outside the minds and bodies of the people. And that's what we have to start understanding. So when we talk about a society and a social structure, it must represent itself in the behavior of the people. And we've been challenged to that. Society, when people say society exists outside and separate of people, that is logically impossible. I mean, it's almost a serious stupidity that's been perpetrated on our people, you know, and it often leads to some serious, you know, misunderstandings, both of ourselves and of our situations. And that's why the Florida Statute 1003.42H is so important to us, because it gives us an opportunity to assess how we have engaged in the school system in reference to our children and their experiences. You know, I just really want to say thank you for taking on the challenge. As a board, you know, we came in initially trying to identify, you know, a specific subgroup of the Black diaspora, and you know, it wasn't easy. And you all have stuck with it through more than a few superintendents, and at this point, I feel confident and that we have created understanding, and that you are serious about inviting the ADOS community, the American Descendants of Slave community, into the school system to help shape the new strategic plan in reference to equity, sustainable equity of access. So May 24th, we have a official response coming from the ADOS community, and we just want to make sure that you come out, you invite, or at least get on the Zoom once we get the.
Hello, this is Mary Ellen Pensker. I'm mom of 2 kids in Palm Beach County, and I'm speaking on a non-agenda topic. I'm interested in the school board placing health and safety standards for wireless, radiation, and other technologies. Wireless internet or Wi-Fi emits radiation that causes a myriad of serious health effects, including damage to DNA, cancer, and infertility. Research shows that autism, ADHD, and other behavioral problems are also associated with wireless radiation exposure. Many scientific and medical experts have issued warnings because of the evidence for them. Solutions are readily available. Computers in schools can be connected to the internet by way of wired technology, which does not emit RF microwave radiation, and is both faster and more reliable. Wi-Fi emits RF radio frequency microwave radiation. Both wireless routers and wireless computers contain transmitters that send information back and forth through the air. Microwave radiation is able to penetrate walls made of wood, metal, and concrete, and it can also penetrate our bodies. There are literally thousands of peer-reviewed studies conducted in laboratories and field studies from around the world that show that wireless radiation is very harmful. The WHO, International Agency for Research on Cancer, has classified radio frequency electromagnetic fields as possibly carcinogenic to humans based on increased risk for glioma, which is a malignant type of brain cancer. This classification applies to all RF-emitting devices, which including Wi-Fi. Children are much more vulnerable to RF microradiation due to their thinner skulls, underdeveloped immune systems, rapidly dividing cells, and higher water content. The American Academy of Environmental Medicine statement on Wi-Fi in schools is adverse health effects from wireless radio frequency fields such as learning disabilities, altered immune systems, and headaches clearly exist and are well documented in the scientific literature. Safer technologies such as hardwiring in schools is strongly recommended. Please take the time to hardwire our schools for the safety of our children and teachers. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ann Margot Cannon. I am asking the School Board of Palm Beach County to make us feel safer regarding the Access for All mesh Wi-Fi network currently being installed in our neighborhoods. Please think of all the wireless devices in our houses already. Wi-Fi, mobile phones, cordless phones, Bluetooth. There's already a huge amount of wireless in the average house, and now there may be a high-powered mesh Wi-Fi network in addition to all this, which will expose us and our children to an additional source of RF radiation 24/7, 365 days a year. This Wi-Fi mesh internet network will also prevent us from being able to reduce or turn off our wireless exposures at night, which is so important for restorative rest. Currently, the standards are based only on adults and do not account for health. The current standard simply says it is safe as long as it doesn't cook tissue like a microwave. But widespread emerging science is clear that radio frequency RF radiation is potentially biologically harmful at very low levels, and children are especially vulnerable. There is even a push by healthcare professionals to add this technology to the group of carcinogens. The American Academy of Pediatrics, the largest U.S. medical association of pediatricians and pediatric specialists, recommends that the U.S. government tighten wireless exposure limits and that the public reduce children's exposures to cell phones and other devices that emit wireless radiation. Cities worldwide are actually removing sources of RF radiation from their schools. What do they know that we don't? We cannot afford to be so focused on COVID-19 that we miss the effects of this type of exposure. Our children are counting on us to pay attention and ask questions. The FCC is now being sued by several groups for not addressing what has been proven scientifically harmful. The FCC will not protect our health. It is evident we will have to do this ourselves. A solution is out there. A lot of public servants in other cities are taking action. Many localities are investigating this and establishing safe technology limits. That is my goal. That should be everyone's goal. Establish safe limits and stick to them. We need to feel safe, and we need to know our children are safe. Thank you.
All right, board members, the next item on the agenda are the board discussion items. We have no speakers on BD1, so we'll take BD1, board discussion items. Mrs. Andrews.
Thank you. First of all, this is a special item for us to discuss with the board. I've spent quite a bit of time talking to the general counsel about our policies, and we're elected as school board members, as we all know. Policies, creating our policies, voting on the revisions, the exceptions, everything that we do as it relates to policies is truly the job of each school board member. And I just know when COVID came, the pandemic came, we were all shut down. We were not able to come to this building, and I think we delegated a lot to the superintendent at that time, but we are the policymaking school board. That is our job. We were elected to represent stakeholders to create and revise school policies. I think we're starting to derail slightly from our role, and it is inappropriate to delegate this to the superintendent, the role of policy making, the role of voting on our policies based on what we need to do. And I want to say that it is on us to make policies work for all our students' needs, every student. We're talking about students every day. This is what the parents are sitting in here. talking about students. So it's up to us to make policies work for all students. And so when I looked at the different policies that we're dealing with right now, and we're going to have a whole lot more of them, I think we did pretty good with the school board meeting policy because we are in charge of that policy. Because if you look at the end of the policy, and I think you can click into all of them, we are saying in that one that it's the school board that can actually change this policy by a 2/3 vote by the school board member. So that one's pretty good. But when we look at the ones on student protocol, and we're going to have to change all of these because we're making changes as we speak. Thank goodness we had some healthcare officials here today. But when we talk about these policies and we begin to try to change them, it doesn't give this school board the opportunity to suspend, revoke, or rescind portions of this policy based on updates available by the COVID-19 cases. So this is our job to look at our policies and make changes. And as you look at the ones for visitation, employee protocols, all of them, we kind of delegated that experience to the superintendent. And it should be our experience, discuss these policies, to talk about them here in the meeting and vote on them. I was just looking at Martin County the other day, and they voted 4-1 to make masks optional. So we're not even voting on any of our policies. We're not voting. We have to vote on these policies. It's not for the superintendent to make the recommendation. It's for us to make the recommendation on these policies. And I think when we were in COVID, we really needed the help probably at the time when I think about why we did it, but we need to correct it right now and try to get in charge of our policies. We need a workshop to go through all of these emergency policies and make the changes as needed. And you know, as we look at the data and the health issues that are coming up and how we are improving, you heard Dr. Alonso, we're doing better. So a lot of these things we can change, but it's up to the school board to be discussing it to the public, the stakeholders, who we have to report to let them know exactly what we're thinking based on the health information and to vote on whatever changes we need to make. So I've been talking to the general counsel about it because I was concerned that we're losing grip on the job that we were elected to do. And so we're starting to derail slightly from our role. And I would open it for discussion about the workshop and what your thoughts are on this. I did check a lot of counties, and most of those counties, actually, the school board does this piece and vote on it and work with the public to make sure the public knows that when you look at the org chart and you look at the public and the school board and then the superintendent, the school board is responsible to the public to make sure this activity is actually done correctly as it relates to policies.
Board members' discussion? Vice Chair Brew?
Thank you. So my question for the superintendent is how soon could we get a workshop on the calendar so that we could go through these?
I think it just depends on whenever the schedule allows for it. I mean, we can start those processes as soon as, I mean, your policy stipulates that there's a duration and you have to go through a series of steps. So we can start them at our next board meeting if you like.
Ms. Brill? Anybody else? Dr. Robinson?
So, I mean, I don't have any problem with workshopping it, but my question is for legal. So these policies were initially put in place, as I recall, as an emergency. And I thought that the three policies highlighted had that language in there so we could be nimble, so that if suddenly there was this dramatic improvement and we could change things instead of having to go step by step by step through the board procedures, that the superintendent could make the change, but that the board could always initiate the change. And tell me if I'm mistaken.
No, that is correct.
Okay, all right, I just needed to check. I mean, I don't have any problem with if the board is saying that they want to initiate the process of revising these policies. But I just never interpreted that it was as if the board could not, because there are policies.
No, the board absolutely can, but understanding that you have to go through the policy process.
Okay,
Mrs. Andrews?
Yeah, and my understanding with you, General Counsel, too, that if we wanted to do this, this would take a while. So when we gave this up at the time of the pandemic or whenever we gave this, and this is just one policy, we're going to have a lot of policies as it relates to COVID. So when we give it to the superintendent, it's going to take us a while to get back if we want to make a change. We have actually delegated that authority to him, and if we want to take that back, we've got to go through a whole step process. I think we talked about that at the last meeting.
Correct.
So, and this, I think, is a problem for me when the public is asking me for my opinion about what we need to do for their children, and I'm delegating that to someone else because I'm not in an emergency right now. I can come to the meetings. I don't need anybody to do my thought process for what has to happen for the children of Palm Beach County as it relates to COVID. We're here. I think when we did that at the time, we were all home. Now that we're here, we need to be discussing these policies, and we need to be making the decision and voting on whether we're going to rescind. So this is where I am right now. Why aren't we doing that?
Vice Chair Burrow?
Thank you. So I just wanted to say that the last meeting, we brought up opening up the playgrounds, and we brought up having the students not wear their masks when they're outside. So we do, to Dr. Robinson's point, have the ability. At every meeting, we gave direction to the superintendent to do that. So, at the same time, I think that we do have the flexibility to give direction. I know the superintendent has spoken to all of us prior to sending out his message. So, we can be as nimble as we choose to be.
Ms. Barbieri?
Mrs. Whitfield?
So I just feel like it should be noted that I'm actually really happy with the message that Dr. Fenoy has sent out. I think that changing policies in 4 weeks is very difficult, and policies are huge. They're not a small process. But the idea that we could get it done for next year so that we can have optional masks makes me really happy. I think we're heading in the right direction as a community. So I just want to say that I think.
Ladies and gentlemen, please.
I don't know that we need to workshop this as fast as we can, because I don't think we could get it done even if we workshopped it right now before the end of this year. So I think we could tackle it over the summer would be a good time to do it.
Yeah, Ms. Wilf, thank you for bringing that up. I don't think that the public understands that the procedures that we have to go through to change a policy, it's got to be a first read, a second read, and then adoption. So it takes at least 3 weeks once we get it started in order to change a policy. When we enacted those policies and we converted them over, we wanted to make sure that the superintendent had the authority to change things quickly, because it takes us 3 weeks to change a policy, but the superintendent, if he decides, if we tell him we want to open the playgrounds, he agreed to open the playgrounds. If we tell him that we want masks off all the children, he'll take the masks off all the children, presumably. But we have that in the policy to make sure that we can move quickly when things change with respect to the pandemic. So we can certainly start with changing the policies to put it back on the board, but keep in mind, once the board has authority to do these kind of things, it's going to take us at least 3 weeks to get the new policies in place. Go ahead, Mrs. Andrews.
Yeah, I guess I have a different understanding on that, because if we had put ourselves in the spot where the superintendent is, we wouldn't have to be taking any time to do that. We could make those decisions. I mean, but I do believe that during the pandemic, and we were all home, this is why we said do it, because we were not here. But all I'm saying is I'm elected to be the policymaker. I'm elected to be the one to vote for the people in the community to know what my opinion is.
Ladies and gentlemen, please.
And I want to complete this, because when I was here last month, I put it on the discussion item to bring it up, because I was concerned about some of the things that were happening to our children. But if we had had it in our policy that we could rescind, revise, correct, or whatever, because we're the board and it's our policy, we wouldn't have had to ask the superintendent. And I don't know, hopefully we won't ever be in a pandemic again, but my concern is we're delegating our authority that we were elected to by the people to make sure that we do what we have to do.
General Counsel, it's my understanding that the superintendent has asked you to start working on those policies to bring them back to us. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so we're in process of bringing those policies back before the board to make the changes that Mrs. Andrews indicates that she'd like to see, and I think the rest of us would like to make sure that we're in control on this. So you are in process of bringing those board policies back to us for the initial discussion before we go into first and second reads, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion on this item? All right, well, then we'll go on to the speakers on BD2. So we currently have about 6 hours of speakers on BD2. So before we get to the next agenda item, we're going to start with the speakers. So for the next 6 hours, you're going to hear from speakers before the board has an opportunity to discuss. So I'll call you 3 at a time. Please try and make your way to the podiums as quickly as possible so this doesn't turn into 8 hours instead of 6 hours. I'll call you 3 at a time. Michelle Mitchell, Kelly Hutchinson, and Stacy Hernacki. Please come to the podiums wherever you're at. Good. Whichever one of you get to the podium first, it's fine. Just state your name for the record, and please watch the clock.
Can you hear me? No. Testing?
It's on.
Okay.
Good.
My name is Kelly Hutchison. I'm a former first grade teacher and a school counselor. I have my master's degree in child counseling, and I currently work in the community to help families with mental health issues in their home. I don't tell you all these things to talk about me, but to let you know that I've spent my life's work since 1994 in the mental health field in regards to children. Without mincing my words, what you're doing to children is hurting their mental health, and asking a child to wear a face mask for 8 straight hours a day is child abuse. And I would report you to the Department of Children's and Families if I was still in the schools. It's against their will. When our children ask for breathing breaks at school, they are denied access to fresh air and disciplined accordingly. They are yelled at, they are shamed, they are told they are not going to be promoted to the next grade level, they get office referrals, they get lunch detention, and even in-school suspension for even lowering it below their nose. Let me repeat that for you. Our children at school ask for breathing breaks, and they are denied, and then they get in trouble. They have to go to a dirty bathroom and hide in a bathroom stall just to get a breathing break. We are gaslighting our children to think that it is normal and healthy to cover up their healthy, beautiful, God-given faces for hours at a time. Kids are not sanitary like we are. They chew on the masks, they sneeze in them, they lick them, they sweat in them, they play with them. No matter how often they're reminded not to eat them, they still do. They use them to wipe their boogers after they sneeze, then plaster the nasty bacteria-filled Petri dish mask over their face for hours. I can't for the life of me imagine how inhaling air through a cloth that is soaked in sweat, mucus, and saliva is deemed to be healthy for a child's growing body and lungs, not to mention their mental health of being fearful that they're going to kill grandma if they take the mask down for a second. This needs to end today because we still have summer school. We have so much school left. We have summer camps. We have athletic teams that rent the school gyms over the summer that need to be mask-free. Kids are masked up while they're running, and the mask acts as a plastic bag that becomes a vacuum seal over their face, and the more that they attempt to get air, the more that it sucks against their face. We need to end this today so graduates can smile at their families during such a memorable event of their lives. I don't even have seniors. The graduation is taking place at the fairgrounds where masks are already optional. So a parent can go to the fair with their senior and not wear a mask, but they can't watch them walk across the stage mask-free and see them smile at one of the biggest moments in their lives. Please, we are begging you to let the families decide for themselves what is best for their child and be done with this child abuse once and for all. Thank you.
Michelle Mitchell, Stacy Hernacki, Jennifer Showalter.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Mitchell, and I'm here to speak up for all the students and teachers, especially the ones without a voice or the ones that are afraid to speak up. Masks were authorized to use under an emergency use authorization. Under that law comes the right to refuse. None of us have been given that right to choose in public school. I'm sorry? Oh, I'm sorry. As a parent, I want to decide what is best for my child. My daughter has a speech delay and aged into the school's district at 3. She was thriving and excelling until quarantine. I do not and will not mask my speech delayed child. Lip reading is a big part of speech and language development. I cannot hear anybody with a mask on, and I'm sorry, but I need to read lips. My daughter, she's just learning to talk. She needs to see mouth, she needs to see the tongue, she needs to be able to know where to put her tongue and mouth and how to make those sounds. Children developing interpersonal skills are being hindered. They're not being able to read people's emotions on their face. This is crucial for young children and children with developmental disabilities. I pulled my daughter last year so that she can go to VPK in a school that doesn't require masks. They let kids play together and share toys. They've been playing on the playground all year long, and they don't treat them like prisoners. It's been over a year that our kids have been affected by this pandemic. Suicide and mental health is the mental health is declining. We quarantined and isolated healthy kids when they weren't sick. Our kids' lives have been completely changed. They are the least affected by the virus, and they have the highest survival rate. Now that the vaccine is available for anyone 12 and up, we need to let our kids get their lives back. Let parents decide what is best for their families. With all the medical interventions, there are risks and benefits. Masks are not one size fits all. Sometimes the risks outweigh the benefits. As parents, we should get to decide if masks will cause more harm than good. We are not asking that masks be banned. We just want the right to choose what is best for our families. For the people that feel safer with a mask, they should have that right. For the children that are suffering with a mask, they should have a right to in-person education without being forced to cover their mouth. Our children's lives and futures are at stake. The kids that are considered at risk are the ones that need to be careful and take extra measures. Stop punishing the healthy kids who are the least at risk. Let kids be kids and get their lives back. Our kids shouldn't have to feel like they're in prison to get an education. Kids should be excited to go to school and enjoy learning. It's time to let parents decide what is best for our families. Thank you.
Stacy Hernacki, Jennifer Showalter, and Chad Lang.
I'm short. Good evening. My name is Stacy Hernacki, and I am a school food service employee here with the school district. I know that you've made the announcement for next year in regards to making masks optional for students, and that is why I am here today. I am one of many school food service employees who has not stopped working since March 13th, 2020. Sorry, I'm nervous. We have continued to work effortlessly with our department to make sure children were able to eat throughout the pandemic over the remainder of the year last year, and we have continued to do so this school year while serving students brick and mortar. We have served families then and continue to do so now in weather conditions that no one should ever work in, but we do so because we have a job to do. We have an obligation to these families to make sure that they have food for their children, and in return, children have some normalcy in a non-normal time. While we've been serving brick and mortar, we've also provided additional programs to students at all school locations. For example, at my school, not only do we serve breakfast, lunch, and supper, we've also added snack to all brick and mortar students, including pre-K. We've added breakfast bags, which we're at 215 and climbing. We've continued with curbside for virtual learners. We have been hustling in our kitchens while being short-staffed because of a hiring freeze. We've been working in front of ovens at 400 degrees, hot wells at 225 degrees with steam coming from them because they have to be filled with water to work properly, as well as many other equipment that have high heat temperatures. We do this all while wearing a mask. Do you know what it's like to work in front of a steam well while running back and forth to make sure students are able to eat, while sweating and breathing into your mask? That you can't change? Doubtful. I can tell you it's miserable and it's not fun. I don't know about you, but this has been the most challenging, exhausting, and there's no other better word for it, but miserable year that we've all worked. We didn't have the option to work from home like 60% of the district did. We were informed that we either come to work, put in for a leave of absence, or resign from our positions. I, regardless of medical conditions, came to work. I came to work for the students of Palm Beach County because where I work, our motto is kids first. We are asking that the mask options are also passed down to us employees. That we are able to make the choice of being able to wear one or not. We are taking precautions that go above and beyond our normal routine. I cannot speak for all kitchens, but I can speak for mine and a few of my other fellow managers who feel the same that I do and are also taking the same precaution in our own lives outside of the kitchens, as we cannot afford to use our sick time in quarantine. Thank you for taking the time to listen to what I have to say, and I hope you take the time and consideration to allow all school district employees in Palm Beach County to make their own decision on wearing a mask or not.
Jennifer Showalter, Chad Lang, and Michelle Whitty. Go ahead.
Oh, and before you start my clock, I just wanted to let you know that I have a copy of my speech that I will give to whoever needs it, and I'll also email everybody on the board a copy of my speech as well.
All right, yes,
Because
one of the
I do
staff
have a
will
lot
take
to say, and I'm sorry, I'm going to go a little quickly. That's why I want to make sure you have it.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Showalter, addressing topic B2 Math, a mom of a junior, freshman, and a fourth grader, all gifted. The youngest two have high-functioning autism, sensory processing disorder, dysgraphia, apraxia, anxiety, depression, ADHD, and more. If my kids, one of which had a perfect 1440 eighth grade PSAT and another has a 5.7 HPA and are struggling to comprehend their muffled teachers' voices and stare at screens in a glorified group virtual class with the one-size-does-not-fit-all learning style, I can only imagine those with real learning disabilities. My spectrum boys struggle to understand meaning without visual facial cues. Cutting and limiting extracurriculars like club and sports directly affect our students' applications for university. Your policies have long-term negative consequences that students already feel lifetime effects from. I'm immunodeficient, and I take this very seriously. As such, I did my homework. I've spent hundreds of hours talking to local EMTs, nurses, doctors, watching videos, and researching papers. Evidentiary science proves that masks do not prevent the spread of COVID or any other respiratory illness. Dr. Greason Brissom, a neurologist and neurophysiologist, said masks affect our brains, causing short and long-term damage. Rebreathing or exhaled air creates oxygen deficiency and a flood of carbon dioxide. The acute warning symptoms are headaches, drowsiness, dizziness, issues in concentration, etc. Neurodegenerative diseases take up to decades to develop. You get used to wearing your mask, but the degenerative brain processes amplify as your oxygen deprivation continues. All the loss of nerve cells will no longer be regenerated. What is gone is gone. Did you hear that? Your policy is causing long-term permanent neurological damage to almost 200,000 children. Dr. Vo explained how all the contaminants get trapped in our masks, causing damage. A 2012 paper found that there were 17 eligible studies and none established a conclusive relationship between mask use and protection against infection. A New York Times article quoted Dr. Savek and other doctors calling the CDC benchmark a huge exaggeration and deceptive. A randomized clinical trial, or RCT, is recognized as the most credible research design for clinical investigation. Every single RCT ever performed on mask usage and prevention of lab-confirmed flu, colds, and other viruses show masks are ineffective. I have emailed you some of my findings already today. The PBC policies match, what have been clinically shown to have inflicted damage that we have been told to consciously accept in our quest to, quote, trust the science. I want to know where is your homework? Where is your evidentiary scientific data, not peer-reviewed talking points that show mask effectiveness on confirming the safety of long-term mask wearing that prove that you are correct and your methods have no long-term consequences? You haven't. I don't see it on your table there. As special needs mom whose students as a special needs mom whose students' medical devices and services are sometimes denied, including a doctor's note for mask exemptions, I find it the height of hypocrisy that you push a medical device on the faces of these children without consent. Parents are waking up. They are 100% of the parents surveyed said that they understand the damage inflicted and they are considering pulling or will pull their children from the district. That's tens of millions of dollars in funding to the district and a drastic drop in rankings to the country.
Your time is up. If you want to submit that, we'll make sure that the board members all get a copy. So
Yes, sir. I just want you to know that if you're leading from behind, and we will not follow that. Thank you.
Chad Lang, Michelle Whitty, and Eric Walmart. Chad Lang, Michelle Whitty, Eric Walmart. State your name for the record, sir.
My name is Eric Walmart.
Go ahead.
Oh, Michelle.
I am here because I have a daughter who is 18 years old. She assists to the Royal Palm Beach Elementary School. My daughter belongs to the program, the 504 program, which was instituted on the Royal Palm Beach Elementary School. My daughter has the same condition that I have, the same condition that basically rendered me disabled, which is chronic anxiety. Chronic anxiety comes with panic attacks. My daughter needs medication to be able to focus on her school. The ADA, the American Disability Act, okay, covers every student that is under the program 504. So my question is, why is the school board not respecting the civil rights of my daughter, who is a participant of the 504 program, as a person that has a disabled? And that's what I want to know, and that's the answer that I would like to receive from the school board. I think that's everything I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Go ahead, ma'am. State your name for the record and go ahead.
My name is Michelle Whitty. Quote, I feel like I can't breathe in them, especially while in PE or recess. I get scared to take it off because my teacher said I will get COVID and tells me I need to keep it on at all times. Ryder in first grade. Quote, it gives me headaches. I cannot breathe. I get yelled at by my teachers when I pull it down to take a breath of fresh air. No one can see my smile. Victoria, who's in fourth grade. Quote, it gives me anxiety since the beginning of the school year because I'm afraid to pull it down so I can catch my breath, but I'll be yelled at, as another student in Palm Beach County. I am a parent to a sixth grade student. The physical and emotional toll the masks have had on my child are extensive, and I just cannot understand why you are continuing this abuse. I know it isn't because of science, because if it was, we wouldn't need to be here. My daughter suffers from severe anxiety. Her triggers are uncontrollable in high-stress situations. Over the past year, her anxiety attacks have been more common. If a teacher reprimands her, if she feels judged by her peers, if she doesn't understand a class assignment, and to most this may seem insignificant, but to me and to her, these are hours of anxiety attacks, screaming, crying, kicking, and punching. I am not begging you to stop. I am telling you to stop with the mask. Max from 7 a.m. when she gets on that bus till 4 p.m. when she steps off that bus. That is 9 hours. She has to hide in a bathroom stall to get a breathing break. If she removes her mask anywhere on campus, she will get a demerit and is told it will go on her permanent record. She believes if she removes her masks, her friends won't be able to come to school anymore, or she might hurt them by the simple act of breathing. She comes home not understanding what is required of her because she cannot see the teacher's face or fully understand what the teacher is saying. I am frustrated, I am angry, and the children should not carry the burden to make sure their teachers survive. This is psychological abuse. You are violating our civil rights. You are ignoring our right to consent to a medical device. Our kids, our choice, make masks optional today. Yes!
Chad Lang, Josh Groden, Greg Labad, Emily Smart. Yeah, go ahead. And, yeah, that's fine. Go ahead. Just state your name.
Good evening. It has become apparent in the last few minutes that actually all of our remarks should be directed at Dr. Fenoy tonight, because he's the sole guy who has the power to end this evening. How do we get your attention when you've already made up your mind? Pull up your mask. Cover your nose. Does anybody yell at you guys? Well, the teachers are bullying our children and yelling at our children. Their fellow students around them have joined in and started bullying and yelling at each other. You created this. You literally made smiling illegal for an entire year. I'll admit that at the outset of this pandemic, it seemed somewhat reasonable for all of us to wear masks. But you can no longer control us with these fear tactics. Now, over a year later, and with the pandemic under control, you need to get with the times and make masks optional. There are obvious mental and physical health hazards associated with children wearing dirty, soggy, bacteria-ridden masks for 7 or 8 hours a day. Right now, I'm imagining all of the bacteria and microorganisms crawling and swimming all over your disgusting masks. If this was about health, you and your friends at the CDC would be recommending vitamin regimens and fresh air and exercise. Your obvious virtue signaling is all done at our children's expense. These are my children we're discussing tonight, and these are their children we're discussing tonight. We want masks to become optionals tonight. That's what our children deserve. And again, Dr. Fenoy, you have the power to make that happen effectively, sir. You're all very close-minded and detached from the real world. What do you think we do with our children outside of school? Well, I'll tell you. We don't wear masks anywhere. We enjoy dinners. We enjoy vacations. We have sleepovers and playdates with our friends without masks. We shop at Publix, Target, Walmart, and CVS, always maskless. And what do you know? The COVID rate of infection is falling like a rock. You leaders pretend that none of those extracurricular activities happen, and then you have the nerve to demand that we put face diapers on our children and send them off to school. You're sick, clueless, and ruthless. And us, we are pissed. What you don't realize is that your unending forced mask mandates on our precious children have awakened a monster. We're watching you. We know what your next moves are, and we are not going anywhere. We will be here when you start your next push of political ideology on our children in the forms of the 1619 Project, critical race theory, racial bias treatment, equity beliefs, and systematic racism. We are here tonight to stand up to you and to demand that you get back to being a non-political board that listens to the parents. Politics has no place in the education system. I'll leave you with this. A diaper catching excrement from your mouth is just as dirty as a diaper catching excrement from your rear end. The lady in the pink jacket hasn't been listening to any of us.
Sir, your time's up. Can you just state your name? I didn't get your
My name is Greg Labat. I've got 2 kids in the Palm Beach County School District.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Labat.
Thank you.
Chad Lang, Josh Groden, Emily Smart, Cooper McCauley.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead. State your name, please.
Hi, I'm Emily Smart. I'm here to request that you end the mask mandate right now. I would like to open with a quote from Judge Mark Henry. America was built upon the fabric of individual liberty and freedom. Let's talk about COVID-19 survival rates. Ages 0 to 19, 99.997% survival rate. Ages 20 to 49, 99.98% survival rate. Ages 50 to 69, 99.5% survival rate. If survival rates are so high, why are you enforcing mask mandates on our children? Now, I would like to give you a refresher of about our rights as citizens of the United States of America. I'm going to read the 14th Amendment. Section 1, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny any person within its jurisdiction of equal protection of laws. Liberty. What is liberty? Used in the Constitution, liberty means freedom from arbitrary and unreasonable restraint upon an individual. Freedom from restraint refers to more than just physical restraint, but also the Freedom Act according to one's own will. Liberty is a state of civil or political freedom. My next point is the importance of oxygen intake. In order for us to perform at an optimal capacity as human beings, we need oxygen. That's common sense. If blood oxygen levels are low, your body will not function properly. Blood carries through your oxygen cells throughout your body to keep them healthy. So if we as humans are not going to get enough oxygen, we can do damage to our bodies. Children need oxygen to be able to focus and function properly as we do. If you say you have the best interest of our children, you say you do, but do you? It doesn't seem like it. It all appears to be one big power trip in it, a political agenda. In closing, forcing children to wear masks is abusive and harmful. Our children's mental and overall health need to come first right now. Your job is, as our elected officials, is to uphold your oath to defend the Constitution and ensure individual freedoms and safety for our children. God bless the children and God bless America.
Chad Lang, Josh Groden, Cooper McCauley, Sean Sykes, Amanda Silvestri. Whoever gets to the podium first is fine. Just state your name for the record, please.
My name is Sean Sykes. We have 4 boys, 2 are in the school district. I just want to thank Marsha Andrews for taking the time last week to listen to a lot of concerned parents and really help bring more awareness in order to remove the mask mandate in our schools. I refuse to sit back and allow misinformation, poor guidance, and a school board who refuses to listen to the parents and kids and enforce masks on our children. Everyone wants to argue the science, but the science is contradictory and unfortunately has been politicized. There is so much science that actually proves that long-term mask wearing is actually detrimental and that they are not as effective. Here we go. In 2009, the National Library of Science conducted a study called the use of surgical face masks to reduce the incidence of the common cold among healthcare workers in Japan, which actually concluded masked healthcare workers were significantly more likely to experience headaches and that it was not demonstrated to provide benefit in terms of cold symptoms or getting colds. In 2010, the Cambridge University published a medical article entitled Face Masks to Prevent Transmission of Influenza Virus, a systematic review. The conclusion was none of the studies reviewed showed a benefit from wearing a face mask in either healthcare workers or community members in the household. The trial of true scientific evidence based on real studies published by credible, reputable sources such as Oxford happens again in 2016, 2017, 2019, and all lead to the same conclusion, and I quote, if there were any benefit to wearing a face mask because of the blocking power against droplets and aerosol particles, then there should be more benefit from wearing a respirator, N95, compared to a surgical mask. Yet several large meta-analyses and all the data prove that there is no such relative benefit. Masks and respirators do not work. So what happened in 2020? Despite that, in March 2020, even Dr. Fauci, who we're all getting guidance from for whatever reason, said that a mask might make you feel better, but it does little to protect against the virus, and there's actually more adverse effects because you keep touching your mask, which you've all done. A face mask becomes politicized, a mask became a symbol of virtue, a signaling, and the subject to which the school board wants to have a power trip, right there, by using our children as pawns, despite the fact that there are several photos floating around the internet showing them in public, in close proximity, sitting there without a mask, And I'm talking to you, all of you up there, Ms. Robinson, I've seen you as well. Meanwhile, my kindergartner in South Florida, heat, has endured recess and PE wearing a mask. A couple of weeks ago, he was having a hard time breathing, and at his desk, a safe distance away from everybody, he also pulled down to catch his breath. He was publicly humiliated by the teacher that told him to put his head down on the desk. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about my middle schooler, 6th grader, Watson Duncan. He's been picked on, kicked in the back of the heel, kicked in the back of the head. He's actually gotten into fights in the bathroom. You know what I get phone calls on? How many inches below his nose his mask is. How pathetic.
Mr. Sykes, your time is up.
Yeah. At this point, my wife and I will not be enrolling our children, not only because of the masks, but including the critical race theory that you want to put in our school system. It's not happening. And I'm not the only one that's not going to have my kids enrolled in schools. There's a lot of people behind me, and you're going to have a lower enrollment system in 2021, and it's going to affect every one of the dollars that go into the public school system. You guys should all be embarrassed.
Are you listening, Dr. Fonora? Are you listening?
Ladies and gentlemen, ma'am, go ahead and state your name for the record, please.
Amanda Silvestri. I can't hear.
Ma'am, over in the other room, go ahead and state your name for the record.
It's on this. Hi, I'm speaking on behalf of the speaker. My name is Noel Casilla. And speaking of the governor, I'd like to point out that the governor of Florida recently passed an executive order which states all local COVID restrictions and mandates on individuals are hereby suspended. Yes. This order eliminates and supersedes any existing emergency order or ordinance issued by a county or municipality that imposes restrictions or mandates upon businesses or individuals. No county or municipality may review or enact an emergency order or ordinance using a local state of emergency or using emergency enactment procedures under chapters 125, 252, or 166 of Florida statutes that imposes restrictions or mandates upon businesses or individuals. Nothing herein prohibits a political subdivision of the state from enacting or pursuant to regular enactment procedures to protect the health, safety, and welfare of its population. I'm here on behalf of the smallest individuals in our community, the children. These kids are being forced to wear masks for 8 and more hours a day, even during PE. That is child abuse. In a recent survey, parents were reporting that their children have experienced the following side effects due to having to keep their noses and mouths covered all day: headaches, migraines, anxiety, depression, social withdrawal, skin issues, coughing, wheezing, difficulty breathing, or increase in asthma symptoms. Communication difficulties. I can't even hear a freaking word you guys are saying because you're wearing your damn mask. Teeth, malaise, dizziness, strep infection, fast pulse or heart rate, and low blood oxygen levels. And I'd like to point out that I called one of your clinics, and I was shocked to find out that your nurses aren't even allowed to keep blood oxygen oximeters on hand unless they have a child, their parent brings it in with the doctor's orders, which means you have no way to tell if children have low blood oxygen levels for a year. I shudder to think of the long-term physical, emotional, and psychological effects this oxygen deprivation will have on our children and their changing and growing bodies. And I'm really glad somebody brought up earlier the subject of equity. You have demonstrated tonight how much you care about equity for all people by separating me and anyone else who did not have their faces covered with a mask by doing. I'm so glad that someone from the board also brought up fairness, equal rights, and it's Jewish Heritage Month. I'd like to point out that I put on this Jewish star, not Jewish Heritage Month, but because this is what people were to do before they were slaughtered in the Holocaust. We separate them and segregate them.
Ma'am, your time is up. Your time is
To
up.
be a personal choice.
Ma'am, your time is up.
Personal
Ma'am, your
choice.
time is up. Amanda
No, I
Silvestri,
don't know.
Gail Byer, Beverly Becker.
Is it on? Okay. My name's Amanda Silvestri. I have 2 children in elementary school in Palm Beach County. I can't imagine what a horrible situation this has been for the board and all the emails and calls you've gotten from parents wanting to unmask their children. I bet you've gotten a good amount of calls from parents wanting you to continue requiring the masks in schools as well. There is absolutely no way to please everyone, is there? The truth is, it's not your job to please everyone, and it's not your job to make health decisions for my children. Your job is to prepare the schools and make sure that they are a safe and sanitary place for the children throughout this virus. Your job is to make sure that the classroom sizes are small enough to keep children 6 feet apart. Your job is to decide if you need to budget for plexiglass for each classroom or extra soap. Your job is to hire virtual teachers for the children that want to remain virtual. Your job is to get creative and make a plan so that the children can still have a fun, exciting, and enriching year. Your job is to ask medical professionals, not just one, to assist you in determining what you can do to the schools to make them safer for the children, and to continuously stay in contact with the medical professionals as the virus changes and we learn new things as we go on. My job is to decide whether I feel that a mask is appropriate for my children. A parent's job is and always has been to make any and all health decisions for their children. The board's job is to handle all of the schools in the district. That is your job. If masks are not made optional with no chance of the board or the superintendent revoking my parental rights, I will withdraw my children from Palm Beach County Schools. I would also like to state that I will not allow my children to continue their education in a school district that promotes racism. Equity, as you are calling it, is a political view, and it is racist. You mentioned dismantling white advantage, which is an opinion. None of this despicable, political, racist nonsense should be pushed on innocent children. It has absolutely no business being taught in schools. This board can create equity by cleaning up the schools that need it most, buying new equipment, and making sure that they have the same enriching programs that the other schools in the district have. But don't you dare teach my children resentment and hate. Your mission is racist. Also, given the recent information that was brought to light regarding the superintendent's wife's racist tweets throughout the years, which were in no way hacked, they were not hacked. The superintendent's behavior over the past year, this equity agenda takes on a whole new level of racism. Racism is never to be taken lightly and has no place in Palm Beach County School District. The board has some major decisions to make and a responsibility to the students, parents, and staff, and it should not be taken lightly. Thank you.
Gail Byer, Beverly Becker, Adriana Semide, and Jean Broadley. It's all right, whoever comes up first is fine. Just please state your name for the record when you begin.
Yes, it's Adriana Semide. Okay. I am here today to advocate for my children and all the children in Palm Beach County. I'm here to express to our school board that the use of any medical device on my children will never again be in your hands. I am not asking for your permission. I am demanding that you stop treating my children like lab rats in a science experiment. I want to be clear that no one on this board, including you, Dr. Fenoy, has the authority to force a mask on my children. It is our children, it is our choice. All the teachers and staff at our schools that want the vaccine were able to receive it by now. There is no reason we should be forcing masks on the faces of our children anymore, especially because they are not spreaders of the virus and because they are not at risk of serious harm from the virus. Even the CDC has lifted the requirements for vaccinated individuals to wear masks indoors. This means that your teachers and staff are safe. There are studies that prove that the masks are harmful to children's health, and conversely, there is absolutely zero evidence that there won't be long-term damage to their physical and mental health. We all know that when a parent questions the masks, you will bring up the science that it protects against the spread of the COVID virus. But you have yet to provide a shred of evidence that shows that children will not have negative health consequences because of your decisions. Why do you change the subject or ignore the question entirely when we ask for proof that the masks are safe? I implore you to show us even one peer-reviewed scientific study that proves that masks are safe to be worn by children 6 to 7 hours a day, 5 days a week, for month after month after month. You can't, because a study like this doesn't exist, okay? Because there is no proof that it is safe. This makes your policy a violation of human rights. We are not your science experiment. It is necessary for you to change your policy and make the masks voluntary immediately and indefinitely. If you don't, you will absolutely see more and more parents pulling their children out of public school, right? And to be transparent, I'm one of those parents that's been researching charter schools and private schools for the upcoming school year, as I do not feel that my tax dollars should be used to further your power trip. Your schools will lose funding, plain and simple. So when you make your decision, do not just brush us off and ignore our plea. Take in all that we're saying, and we ask you to unmask our kids and give us a choice right now. Governor DeSantis and Commissioner Corcoran have given you the green light to give us a choice. So now it's your moment to do the right thing. Thank you for your time.
Go ahead, ma'am. State your name for the record, please.
My name is Beverly Becker. As a pediatric occupational therapy assistant of 29 years, I am appalled and heartbroken at this last school year. I myself was unable to obtain employment at the school because I have a medical condition where I am unable to wear a mask. The school I was at refused to let me come in without a mask. I have documented and verified medical condition and physician's prescription, but this is not about me. I am here to stand up and fight for not only our kids in the general ed population, of which I have raised 4 and I have 1 left in 10th grade, but for the ESE population that is already at a disadvantage and cannot speak up for or self-advocate. I had an adorable kindergartner with Down syndrome that was forced to wear a mask when I worked with him outside on his back porch 3 days a week. I never saw his sweet little face without a mask. All I heard were his parents telling him, his name, pull up the mask. His name, pull up the mask. I was never fully left alone to work on his OT goals because they had to check and make sure his mask was up the entire 60-minute treatment session. They even sent his siblings out to check and tell him to pull up the mask. They were 10 and 12. He had to have touched his mask every 5 to 10 seconds, and I never understood anything he said. His mask was covered in drool, dirty, and soaking wet. His ears were bright red because mom and dad would pull it out over his nose and fix the straps no less than 10 times per visit. He would take a sip of water, put the mask back on, and then drip the water out of his mouth. His tongue was constantly touching the mask, either licking it or pushing on it with his tongue. He was constantly frustrated because I could not understand him, and he would say the same thing over to me over and over. It was hot and he was sweating and could not read well. He didn't want to wear the mask, but he was yelled at every 3 minutes for an hour to pull up his mask. His name, cover your nose. That's all I heard. Those sessions felt like torture for me and him, and I am certain I never saw him smile, and I never felt we accomplished much at all. In fact, I feel like those sessions caused damage to that poor boy, and that is not why I became a therapist. I left those afternoons sad and confused, wondering why I was even treating this student. Never in 29 years did I ever feel that way, ever. We hear everywhere that we should protect the children. Call in a report to DCF. It's mandated. I have heard you are a mandated reporter for so long, both in the school system and in the hospital where I have spent my career. So I am reporting the school board of using our children. Please unmask our kids. You are doing damage to their mind, body, and soul.
Go ahead.
Jean Broadley. Over the last 9 months, our children have spent 948 hours without smiles, laughter, playing with friends, socializing, or breathing fresh air. We've spent 9 months forcing our children to carry a burden that was never theirs to bear, all under the guise of disease prevention from a virus that they don't have. We've protected one generation at the expense of another. It's not our children's job to protect the adults, it's our job to protect them, and we have failed. During several board meetings, Dr. Fenoy mentioned that he opted to delay the start of kindergarten for his own child. To me, that says that even Dr. Fenoy had little faith in the policies that were put into place this year, particularly for our youngest learners. Our children are the only population in the state of Florida currently mandated to wear a facial covering. This defies any logic. This is the same population that has almost zero risk of getting severely ill and have been proven to not be significant spreaders. If the downward trend in the positivity rate in Palm Beach County, the increasing availability of the COVID-19 vaccine, and the governor's recommendation against facial coverings are all indicators that masks can be optional for the start of the school year, those same indicators can be used to end the mandate today. Every parent has an innate desire to protect their children. We all want our children to be healthy and happy. We may not currently agree on how that is accomplished, but no one's feelings, beliefs, or desires should ever supersede or invalidate another's. We all have an equal voice and should be treated that way. Where is the science and data to show that what you have mandated for our children will not cause long-term physical, emotional, social, physiological, or psychological harm? If we're following the science, where are the studies on the long-term effects of prolonged mask use in children? Are there any? Or are our children a part of this involuntary study? If there is even a shred of a possibility that these masks are causing harm, informed consent and choice is the only answer. We don't have to agree if masks work or not, but we need to recognize that every parent has a right to choose what is in the best interest of their own children. A quick review of the district organizational chart will tell you that students, parents, and the community of Palm Beach County are at the top of that chart, followed by the school board and then the superintendent of schools. There are thousands of people at the top of this chain of command telling you that this is not okay, telling you that we need a choice. It's time for parents to take back the decision-making power over our own children that was never yours to begin with. Let me be clear, no one has the authority to make medical decisions for my children but my husband and myself as their parents and guardians. My goal is to not only end the mandatory mask policy today, but to make sure this never happens again. Unmask our children.
Tracy Lawler, Hal Lawler, Julie Damasir. Go ahead, ma'am.
Right. My name is Tracy Lawler. I'm a mother of 4. I want to thank Ms. Andrews for meeting with us the other week. The vision and equity statements on our district website say, the school district of Palm Beach County will take ownership for students' academic mastery, emotional intelligence, and social emotional needs by creating environments where students, families, staff, and communities will develop agency and voice. Our school district is failing to fulfill these statements. It is time for this board to take ownership for the damage being done to our children by mandating masks and teaching them to be fearful. You are not listening to our voices. It is up to us as individuals to determine for ourselves what works for us in regard to our health and medical decisions. That is human sovereignty, our basic human right. We are responsible to take care of our own bodies and our own health. I cannot make someone else healthy or build up another person's immune system by my personal choices, but I can make those choices for myself and my family. I stand here today representing people like me who have done the research that has resulted in health decisions that are different than most. We will continue to do the research and to take personal responsibility for our own health. I encourage others to assume that right of responsibility and do the research as well. Our society is teaching children that to be healthy, they need to wear masks, isolate, excessively sanitize, and stay indoors. Why aren't we teaching our children about what truly makes us healthy? Proper nutrition, staying hydrated, getting enough sleep, lowering our stress levels, getting exercise, going outdoors to get sunlight and fresh air, and lifting our spirits by being in community with others. Wearing a mask does not make a person healthy. In fact, masks have numerous ill effects. Aside from the obvious fact that they restrict breathing, masks reduce oxygen to the brain, they hinder detoxification that occurs when we exhale, they can cause mouth and skin infections, and they increase the risk of infection due to trapped moisture and bacteria, just to list a few. Wearing a mask is not healthy. As parents, we tell our children to stand up to peer pressure against injustice, to stand up for what is right, and to be brave while doing these things. I will not teach my children to be afraid. I stand here today to demonstrate to my children that I will put actions behind what I am teaching them. I want to educate and empower my children to stand up for what is right, their rights, and liberty. My friend Deborah says, every time you quietly go along with something that you know inside is wrong and don't believe, you not only betray yourself a little more each time, but you also enable and perpetuate it. We must stop waiting for someone else to be brave. It is not okay for this board to mandate that my children wear a mask. That is solely my choice to make as their parent. I do not agree with, and I do not consent to my children being masked. I stand for health and medical freedom, which is standing for human rights.
Hal Lawler, Julie Damasir, and Regina Stenaccio.
Hello, my name is Julie Damsker. I am a mother of 4 small children in Palm Beach County, and I'm from Unmask the Kids in Palm Beach County. Ms. Andrews, I just want to say thank you for showing your support. You are literally the only person who has shown us and been very vocal about supporting parental choice and really what is best for our kids. This is absolutely appalling that this is what it takes to get our school board and superintendent to listen. How many thousands of emails were unanswered, not even passed down to your instructional supervisors? Do you see how many people are here, working taxpayers paying your salary here to do your job? Now let's hope you're listening, because parents are ready to do whatever they need to do in order to protect their children. Dr. Fenoy, this is all geared towards you, okay? November 2020, you move an emergency policy to a permanent policy. It's safe for us to say here that at that point, you figured the emergency is over, right? I would say so, because you didn't have your health advisory board meet again, only in December, and then not again after that. So at that point, you were just done. You were done with the emergency. So at this point, it's very safe for us to assume that the masks that the teachers have been wearing and the students have been wearing since November were not for safety, but just for your power trip. You're the superintendent in the largest school district in Florida. Straight from your mouth in the last meeting, you had just found out that Monday that kids were still wearing masks outside. How is that possible? You sound foolish. This is very foolish. We dissected that board meeting. Okay? Your emergency memo did not match what everybody said in that board meeting. Kids are still socially distancing outside. They can't play with their friends without their masks on. They're still playing in 100-degree weather with their masks on. Every single school in Palm Beach County, every single school. We have a pulse on it. Now you make masks optional for next year. You think we trust you? You think we trust that? That's not good enough for us. Masks optional on your terms is not good enough for us. Okay? We have zero faith, zero trust that you have our children's best interests at heart. And we also you have zero right to illegally be forcing children and teachers to wear medical devices on their faces. Board, I've spent my entire career in HR. If I ever had an employee that neglected their duties as much as he has, they would be terminated. He has put our entire community in a terrible, terrible position. We're all suffering at his hands, and I don't know what you're waiting for to fire him.
Regina Stenaccio, Jameson Sotolongo, Karen Holm.
My name is Hal Lawler, and I'm a father of 4 here in Palm Beach County. And I wanted to talk a little bit tonight about the unintended consequences of the mandated requirements in our schools. The most notable near-term unintended consequence is the career and income impact upon single parents. Parents that for health and wellness reasons choose to keep their children out of in-person schooling are having to sacrifice their career and their income opportunities. And over-indexing on this fact are single mothers specifically. And as an employer, I have witnessed this fact, and it saddens me to see this step back in our society. Although the near-term impact is disheartening, the longer-term impact is even far greater on our society. The actions of the school board requiring unnecessary mask wearing and other social distancing rules that interfere with relationship building among children will increase the cultural misunderstandings and the wealth gap. Those parents that have the means to pay for private school, but because we've historically had such a great school system, kept their kids in the school system. And they will consider removing their children from public school if these mandates are not lifted immediately, as registrations are occurring right now. Public schools offer the opportunity for children to make friends across cultural, racial, and wealth divides. And by provoking these children to leave the public school system, we rob them of the chance to be socially immersed in society, but rather place them in environments that are more like-minded and consistent with their own way of life, which actually goes against broadening our equity. It is also proven that children of means have stronger resources, support, grades, and test scores. This will disproportionately impact school funding over time, placing even more pressure on teachers and administration to provide the best possible environment for those that can't afford private school. Please consider the unintended consequences the current mandates, namely requiring masks, will have upon our single parents, the children, and society over time.
Good evening. My name is Regina Spinaccio, and I am a mom of 3 and one of the people in the Unmask the Kids schools community. First, I would like to state that I do not consent to the current mask policy, and if there is the slightest chance that a policy will be enforced at any time during the 2021-2022 school year, as it states in Dr. Fenoy's recent memo, I will remove my children from the Palm Beach County school system. I would like to thank Marcia Andrews for being the only board member who took time to personally hear my concerns last week. It was reassuring since so many of my emails have been left unanswered. A few weeks ago, I began to ask for the transmission rates for the children from you, from Dr. Alonso, the person you look to for guidance, and from the Department of Education. I requested to see the data used to implement the mask policies. I'm still waiting for a response. Believe me, I want to be wrong. I want to be able to say that my children have worn masks for 6 hours a day for the last 8 months because the data proves they work. I want to see the proof that the transmission rate inside the schools is significantly lower than what's outside the schools. I imagine if this data existed, you would share it with us to help fortify the masking and social distance policies that you continue to stand behind. If student-to-student transmission is a major concern, then can you explain how student athletes are able to participate in district sports, mask-free, indoors and outdoors, without always practicing social distancing? This doesn't align with the messaging given to our own students at recess and PE, who are constantly reminded to pull up their masks, if not 6 feet apart, while playing with their own friends. When I didn't receive answers to my data questions, I thought the stories of children suffering academically, mentally, physically, and emotionally would surely get your attention. Yet many are still masked during PE and recess, where there have been reports of children fainting and throwing up. Teachers offer awards and consequences that are tied to mask behavior. There are accounts of shaming and bullying and children physically correcting their peers on how to wear masks. IEP and 504 services have not been met since last March, and the list goes on. You are failing our children, and you know it because we have told you how it is happening. The fact that your own health advisory committee hasn't met since December is proof of exactly how you have been leading us through this pandemic. How can you keep overarching mitigation protocols in place when you haven't even met as a team? What I have witnessed is not leadership, and what I need you to do today is to stand up and take accountability for your actions. This is your job. And you were elected and appointed by us to do it, and to do it exceptionally well. I want to make this clear. We are not going anywhere. For some of us, our eyes are just opening while others have been in this fight advocating for their children and other students for years. What's the difference now? We are unifying. We are joining forces, and we will no longer let the system divide and conquer us. What you see as a fight against masks, we see as a fight for parent choice, something that belongs to us, and that's why you have underestimated our ability to rise up. Masks are just the tip of the iceberg, and our work won't end here. Thank you for your time.
Last call on Chad Lang, and then I'll cross through your name. So if you're here, please come to a podium. Same with Josh Groden and Gail Byer. Next ones I have on the list that I haven't called yet are Jameson Sotolongo, Karen Holm, and Jason Bolt. If you're here, please come to a podium. Ma'am, state your name and go ahead.
Hello, I'm Jameson Sotolongo, mother of 2 children currently enrolled in Palm Beach County schools. I know the parents in this room and the ones you all segregated have stood up for our children's rights tonight. So tonight, I will be reading quotes from the teachers and counselors within the community as they fear retaliation and being fired for speaking up for what they want. As a teacher of 23 years in Palm Beach County, this year has been by far the worst. Our kids can't see their teachers' smiles welcoming them to school every morning, and I can't see their smiles or their expressions. I'm asking as a teacher to please allow the children and the school employees to have a choice from this day forward. I miss my kids' smiles and hugs, a 3rd grade teacher. About 2 weeks ago, I picked up my class from outside PE. We made it to the room. One of my students said he didn't feel well. He went straight to the bathroom and threw up. This right after being outside in the heat with a mask. He then went home because, of course, he was sick. The way in which teachers are speaking to children who are not wearing their masks properly is absolutely disgusting. Children being sent home because they weren't wearing their mask properly is a disservice to them. Another teacher, we had a meeting today to go over new guidelines. Playground was advertised to us as optional. The teacher beside me in the meeting said, "Good. If it's optional and maskless, I'm not taking them out." Then the teacher beside her agreed. So now playtime is optional, is advertised as optional, and the fearful teachers are running with it. This is horrible. I, for one, have never been a fan of the masks because they do not help at all whatsoever. If anything, they are filled with more gunk and germs of overwearing and not being washed daily, especially by the kids. As a 6th grade school counselor, it's my job to make the new 6th graders feel welcomed. They're coming to us from elementary school, still very much timid and having no idea what to expect from their new giant school with so many new kids, many of them much bigger than they are as 6th graders. The transition from elementary to middle can be a very scary time in the lives of children. How do we expect them to make new friends and learn new faces and names when all the faces are covered up? Even the faces we may recognize are covered up. As their counselor, it has been so difficult to learn their faces and names because I am very much a visual learner, and I can't learn a name if I can't put a face to it. It feels mortifying to me, and I'm sure degrading for them when I have to constantly ask, "What's your name?" all the time. This is an outrage. Let our children breathe. Let our children have the dignity of living their life with their face, the most precious physical asset, uncovered for the world to see. That is how it's meant to be. Unmask our children now. Time is of the essence. Hi there. Just want to say thanks for all you're doing to rally us up. My kids attend public elementary school here in the Palm Beach County School District, and I'm 150% against masks. And I'm also grateful to see so many people coming together to fight against this tyranny. Unmask our children. And for those of you not paying attention to us coming up here, it'd be nice if you see my face as a parent. Pay attention to us. We're here fighting for our kids.
Ma'am, go ahead and state your name for the record.
Hi, I'm Karen Holm. I have a few comments that are from the children that have been collected. Hunter in kindergarten says, "I don't like wearing masks. I know it's a rule, but I can't breathe so well and it hurts behind my ears." Reese from 4th grade says, "Don't they care that I can't breathe with it on? I can't see anyone's faces, so I don't know if they're smiling or frowning at me, and that makes me sad." Tegan in kindergarten says, "It's hard to breathe." Reed from 8th grade says, "I keep getting a cyst on my nose where the mask sits, and it really hurts and it won't go away. It's hot and my face sweats a lot. It's hard to breathe hot air." Micah, a fourth grader, says, I can't breathe. Parents, please listen to your kids and not anyone else. Stop listening to those who want to suffocate your children physically, emotionally, and developmentally, and yet claim to have Mental Health Awareness Month. Okay? I'm begging you, please know that masks were authorized by the FDA in April of 2020 as an emergency use authorized product. Any emergency use authorized product can be refused by anyone, and everyone has the right to know the risks and benefits of wearing one. All parents, please know you have the right to refuse masks for your children, and I mean now, because of the easy infection. All you need to do tomorrow morning, hear me, is just say no when you drop your child off at the door of their school. As Glenda the Good Witch said, you've always had the power all along, my dear parents. You've had it all along. Right. Just say no tomorrow morning when you drop your kid off. If they give you pushback, you stand there and you wait. You wait. You all wait. Hundreds of you can wait outside the school tomorrow morning and let them deny your kid entry statutorily and constitutionally for your children. Do you hear me? Sit there. Make hundreds of people outside their schools tomorrow morning. Get that attention, baby. Keep going.
Jason Bolt, Alexia Bolt, Cindy Fackel, Di Dorado.
Can you put this up? 1 second. My name is Lieutenant Colonel retired Jason D. Bolt, CRNA, United States Air Force. And I've earned the right to speak without a mask. I'm not putting it up. I'm putting up my lip. I served 21 years, twice in Afghanistan.
Please put the mask up. Thank you.
Can I have my clock restarted, please? Can I have my clock restarted? Can I have my clock restarted, please? Put it back to. Please restart my
Go
clock.
ahead, Mark, go ahead and restart the clock for the gentleman.
Respectfully. Thank you. Okay, let me start over.
Go ahead.
My name for the record is Lieutenant Colonel Jason Bolt, CRNA, United States Air Force, retired. I served 21 years, twice in Afghanistan, with 4 surgical teams, and now work at a large medical center. I have expertise in saving lives, even with my own at risk. I will provide you firsthand account about the fear of COVID. Americans should never sacrifice their liberty to live in a nation of safety. Here are the boots on the ground assessment, contradictory to Dr. Alonso. COVID-19 survival rate, 99.8%, 100% for children since April 2020. 50 pediatric ICU admissions admitted for COVID or COVID-related illnesses. 5 were less than 12 years of age. PICU bed status was 12%, stagnant. 10 children were intubated, 3 were only treated with remdesivir. Kids don't get sick, kids don't need vaccines, and it's absolutely unjustified to use masks. Regular masks, they do not protect. COVID and aerosolized nerve gases like sarin are 200 to 1,000 times smaller than the pores of a surgical mask. Take a regular mask, go into a gas chamber. A few vapors, you'll be coughing and vomiting. Yet you muzzle our kids, you impede their God-given natural right to breathe freely. I can't even breathe through this piece of shit. Excuse me. As an airway expert, I know life is a balance between oxygen and carbon dioxide. Brain impairment and death happen without it. Additionally, exhaled air is warm. This is harmful to our kids, and you've heard that before. Fact, OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health Administration, does not set standards for child-sized masks or respirators. You have no right to mask children. Fact, your board refuses state-level education change of command and the governor's ideology, and you use science to try to back, but yet you have no proof. Moreover, Dr. Fenoy, you are appointed and not anointed. You sent out a mask decree on May 13th with a letter that projects your authority, but yet you remain insubordinate to the science. One additional comment. The the school board recently adopted an equity statement. Why? Your only job is education, not indoctrination. Attention board members. Our nation is a republic. We are the people. We have a voice. Our votes are our weapons, and we will use them in 2022 and beyond. We in the military, our blood, our sweat is the equity. It is courage, character, not color, not gender, that makes this nation great. Working Americans are united. We are not divided. Stop trying to incite division among us. We are Americans first, and we will be free always!
Alexia Bolt, Cindy Falco Di Dorato, and it's Elizabeth Feltman.
Watch out for my wife, she's next.
Hi.
Okay, do you hear me?
That gentleman, kudos. God bless you, brother. Yeah. It's our duty. It's our duty, my brothers, my sisters, to stand up and fight against tyranny. It's written in the Declaration of Independence. But I want to talk to you about what wearing a mask is. And if you have a box of masks at home, I encourage you, moms, dads, and those sitting on the dais, and those out front here in the area. On the side of that box, what it says warning, this mask is not a respirator and is only intended for general purposes. General purposes, if you're spraying, spray paint, so you don't get it in your nose. When people wear it, it reduces potential contact by the wearer to fluid. So it's only going to really protect me. This lie you've been telling everybody, oh, I don't care about you because I don't wear a mask. That's a lie. You see, I don't wear a mask because I do care about you. How do I care about you? Because I'm not making my temples sick. I'm not getting sick. I'm staying healthy. For you that are wearing the mask, you are destroying the very body that God gave you. Do you understand what you're doing? You're putting toxins in your body, and you're creating everyone else around you to be sick. So please don't tell me that you care about me because that's why you're wearing a mask. You don't care about me. If you cared about me, you wouldn't. You know why? I'm a floral artist. And when I walk around and I see these blue diapers on everybody's faces, I get so depressed. I go around to look for beauty, for inspiration. I don't even go out that much anymore because why? I'm sick of looking at these blue diapers on your faces. It is disgusting. It is turmoil to my soul. After hearing today about these children, my son is dead. I don't have children in school age, but after I heard these parents tell me what these children go through and they have to ask for a breathing break, where does this terminology even come? How did you do this to other human beings and to children? Moms and dads, I'm going to encourage you right now. God gave you those children for you to protect. Take those masks to your children. You are having dirty hands and you are agreeing. Listen, when they wear that mask, you're agreeing with the lie that's being perpetuated by this government. Because see, I don't wear a mask because I was created in truth, not in lies. And every time any one of you, adults as well, wears that mask, you're agreeing with a lie which makes you a liar. It makes you a liar. Are you a liar? Step back for a moment. Nobody can make you wear a mask. Fear is false evidence appearing real. Wake up and do something.
Alexia Bolt, Elizabeth Feltman, Betty Ann Moret. Go ahead, ma'am.
Okay, do you hear my voice?
Yes.
Yes.
Ma'am, you're going to have to put your mask on. I'm sorry.
Okay.
That's the rules
I'll
in this room.
Try my best. Okay. Hello, my name is Alexia Bolt, and I'm a prior civilian and military ER nurse. My My husband is the one who just spoke a minute ago, and he is a nurse anesthetist. Okay, so we are both medical. I'm here to point out the negligence of this school district and the doctor they are using as a representative, and how this led to or contributed to a terrible medical problem in our 17-year-old son right here. As many know, in the student mask policy, code 5.326, in section 3, there is an exemption which allows a student to wear a face shield instead of a mask if it's authorized by a physician and agreed to by a compliant 504 team at that student's school. Our son has asthma, and it just so happens he has been on a 504 plan for other reasons since 4th grade. For most of fall semester this fall, I battled that 504 team at his high school to allow him a shield. But they not only rejected my request, but also the request of 2 pediatricians at his practice. Because I would not yield, they punted our son's case to the very callous school district doctor named Dr. Shetman, who also rejected our pediatrician's request, knowing that our son not only has an underlying chronic pulmonary condition, but also was having periodic dizziness with the mask. The 504 team led me to believe that Dr. Shetman is the ultimate gatekeeper of shield approval. Now fast forward to April 19th, when our son was hospitalized at St. Mary's for a week for a mysteriously developed abscess, pus-filled infection in his right lung the size of a tennis ball. The only symptom he had been having was occasional coughing, but he was not wheezing. So I knew this was more than asthma because I used my stethoscope on him all the time, okay? They ruled out tuberculosis during that admission, and of course he did not have COVID. And still to this day, none of the specialists can figure out how or why he got this necrotizing pneumonia. In other words, it actually ate away at his entire lung tissue, the size of a tennis ball, totally ate it out. That required him to have a long IV catheter inserted into his upper arm that is threaded all the way up to the entry point of his heart. It's called a PICC line, okay, which is for 4 weeks of IV antibiotics. It is in him right now. I'm going to show it to you right here. Okay, and thank God, my husband and I are both medical, and we can handle the 4 times a day IV antibiotic regimen, but for a non-medical family, this would be majorly stressful. Now, being medical, my husband and I have a high index of suspicion that him wearing a mask for hours at a time and it gets contaminated by touching and inhaled through all day long, and even forced to wear after playing tennis for his tennis team, all hot and sweaty, is the primary cause of this very uncommon pulmonary condition. Okay, but it took this extreme case for his 504 team to finally confess to me the other day. In fact, they are the ultimate gatekeepers, not Dr. Shetman. They punted him off to that doctor so that 504 team would wipe their hands clean, and because they wanted to avoid setting precedents in the fall semester, knowing that if our son got this shield, which just got approved on May 7th, damn it, they knew that it would cause such a clamor from the rest of the school. They did not want that. The pediatrician even said, Alexia, you know if Shetman approves this, that the other parents and the teachers are going to it's going to open up Pandora's box, and they are going to be begging for it too. That's why that 504 team would not approve. They had to take this disaster to happen for them to finally take a knee to my request, because we know that mask wearing was a contributing factor, and by golly, if they had not approved, there would have been legal action against this entire district.
Elizabeth Feldman, Betty Ann Murray, and Amber Costa. Go ahead, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Superintendent, thank you. If I may...
State your name, please, ma'am.
My name is Betty Ann Moret.
Thank you.
If I may parcel out some of Dr. Alonso's statistics and highlight the numbers relevant to the demographic for whom we are here to represent. There are over 4.1 million children in the state of Florida. 276,000 positive COVID cases, which is less than 6.8% of the population. 17,649 hospitalizations, which equates to 0.4.5%, and 12 deaths. Moreover, physicians, practitioners, and hospitals had broad diagnostic privilege and were also incentivized for making a call of COVID. Is Dr. Alonso here?
No, she's not.
Dr. Robinson, do you disagree? You disagree? It's not a dubious thing to question the accuracy of these statistics. This is a blood sport devoted to backroom deals and hidden money trails. We trust you acknowledge the information brought forth today with regard to short and long-term effects of prolonged use of facial coverings, and that children play a minimal role in the diffusion of COVID-19 infection is a medical fact based on precedents of the last 15 months and predicated on compendial standards. This is not anecdotal, this is real, and the best thing you can do right now is start acting like you care. There has been a disturbing breach in your student-first philosophy, which, according to your mission and charter, is your school board goal number one. Stop forcing these children to bear the cross of a pandemic that is functionally over. You are killing the age of innocence. Thank you.